You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
So joining us right now is the Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams. He joins us via Skype. Glad to have you here, President Adams, on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland. Good to be with you as well.
You're also running for mayor of New York City as well, so we want to go ahead and make that point. Let's talk about this here, this whole issue of what's happening in places like New York City. The reality is we've heard Mayor de Blasio say shelter in place, prepare for the worst. Today, Governor Andrew Cuomo, yesterday he said companies at no more than 50% in terms of employees. Now it's been raised 75% where the folks, non-essential folks, can't be in the office. Do you? And I made this point a couple of days ago. I think that we're doing this thing piecemeal. You had Bill Ackman, who went on CNBC yesterday and said, "Look, you got to shut this thing down for 30 days." At what point do leaders step up and say, you cannot do mass testing unless you actually shut it all down to get a true handle on what's happening in this country? Agree or disagree?
Agree 100%. And in addition to that, we need to do a real analysis of how we are approaching this crisis. To the heads of my hospital in Brooklyn, for those who are not familiar, Brooklyn is one of the 5 counties in New York. It's the largest. If it was a separate city, it would be the 3rd largest city in America with 2.6 million people. 47% of them speak a language other than English at home. When I spoke to the heads of my doctors, presidents of my hospital, they told me all the testing you had to go through the Department of Health, the State Department of Health. For every request they requested to have a test, 9 of the people were denied, 1 were allowed to get the test. That's extremely significant because you're seeing particularly in Brooklyn, there's an undercount because 9 out of 10 people were denied the test. I believe if you do analysis across America to those communities of color, you're going to see that there's an under-testing problem. So we really don't know how much this virus is impacting those communities of color. If it's happening in New York, I assure you it's happening across the country. And I think it's imperative that we have a real conversation about how do we shelter in place to really deal with this issue.
And again, the last thing in the world I want to see is a national shutdown where everyone is sheltered in place. But you look at finally where you have the governor of Florida who's been shameful because they were sitting here scared of losing spring break money. You had thousands of people congregating on beaches. Initially, you had states who were moving to say no more than gatherings of 1,000 people. Then some said 500. Then some said 250. And the CDC said 50. The next day, the CDC said 10. And the reality is there's no way to get a handle on who's infected and who isn't unless you do massive testing. Look, today, and here's what's unbelievable. You talk about 9 out of 10, Sean Payton, head coach of the New Orleans Saints, has announced he tested positive for coronavirus. You have, of course, Kevin Durant there in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn Nets and 3 other players as well. And I'm not singling them out, but you have to ask the question, how in the world are 8 NBA teams getting fully tested and NFL people are getting tested, but regular ordinary people can't get tested? There's a problem. And then Trump goes, well, hey, you know what? That's the way life goes, essentially saying, hey, the rich actually get these things. This is maddening. I read this New York Times story where this matriarch of a family, her and 2 of her kids have died. 20 family members are quarantined and trying to figure out what's going on. And then you can have it and show no symptoms. So how in the hell you know somebody else has it? I mean, it's just sort of maddening watching this every day and this piecemeal hoping that this thing just to Trump using his own words, goes away.
And so true. And you touched on 2 things that I want to touch on temporarily. One is that we stated in the state that the only time you get to test if you are really hospitalized and you are showing advanced signs of coronavirus, yet you're watching those without any signs at all receive testing. So you're sending a mixed message to the American public.
Advanced signs means you're damn near dying.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And then when you look at the methods of testing, how are we allowing everyday people to receive the test? And that is what we're fighting for now. But also, are we using technology effectively? I'm speaking to you via Skype. Why are we using telemedicine? Telemedicine is a powerful tool to screen out those individuals who have questions that they want to ask. We just opened a telemedicine command center at my Brooklyn hospital, and it allows people not to overclog emergency rooms. And this is something we need to infuse into the healthcare prices. But the real question Americans need to be asking is, we said a year ago, no, this has been predicted for the last 10 years or even more. We know we have superbugs. We know we're going to get a virus. Where's the playbook? How come we're not ready and we're caught flat-footed on these issues that we should have been prepared for, not only on the national level, but the state and the city levels? We knew this was happening. We should not be trying to figure this out right now.
Well, first of all, the Obama folks, before Trump was sworn in, they went through an actual exercise that dealt with this, and pretty much the Trump people just blew it off and didn't take it seriously, and then wiped out many of the people who were actually supposed to be doing it. You talk about with the Brooklyn Hospital Center in Fort Greene with this outdoor tent facility to pre-screen people for coronavirus. That makes sense because, unfortunately, we're seeing in Parkland Hospital in Dallas shutting down visitors. I saw a tweet from Mark Lamont Hill. His dad has been ill, 92 years old, has been going there helping, feeding him. He's now moving to a nursing home. He can't go see his dad, and he literally said to me, he said, I may not see my dad ever again if he doesn't get well. Eric Deggans, who's a media reporter for NPR, same thing. The hospital where his mom is ill had him ordered all folks to leave. He detailed how he was caring for her and was staying on the nurses when it came to changing her IV bag, her saline solution bag, things along those lines. And so you got people who are saying, they got ill parents who are saying, because I can't even visit them now, I may not never see them again. And so with this tent that y'all have set up, so essentially explain to folks what it does. So is it pretty much that you still have the hospital that's operating, and then the people are not entering the actual hospital, they're going in this tent?
It's so important because here's the problem that we're facing across the entire country. We're running out of emergency room beds, and we're running out of beds. And so what we set up here in Brooklyn is two things. Number one, we set up a command center for the telemedicine. This way we can stop people from coming to the hospital. Then we set up this tent here that's connected to our emergency room. We have a team of doctors and physicians and nurses who would actually pre-screen the patients to determine if they need to go inside the emergency room and be treated for coronavirus or any other illnesses. Because just because coronavirus has appeared, it doesn't mean other chronic diseases have disappeared. And so by filtering out those and using a triage method, we're allowed to treat those who are in real need and those who won't clog up the healthcare center. It's a great program. I was there this morning and watching the hundreds of people online. I saw the telemedicine center as well. All of our hospitals in our country must start looking towards telemedicine and looking towards how do we pre-screen people.
This is obviously a continuing problem, and unfortunately, we are not seeing the kind of results. I do have to ask you this here. I saw one story. I saw several stories. How are you dealing with your employees? I saw a story say that like 60 or 65 out of your employees have to come in, and you made a point that you said it was unfair to hourly workers compared to higher paid salaried workers. Explain that.
And that's a great question. First, none of my employees that wanted to stay home, I refused to allow them to stay home. 5 employees came to me. They said they wanted to stay home. I said, you have a right to do so. We're not going to do that. I'm so proud of my employees because they stated we want to be in the office. We have all of these people who are in crisis. We want to deal with them. What the city put out, they stated that all non-essential employees, those are managers, they told them they can stay home with their families, and all the other employees, they have to come in. I said, that is not right. My managers are paid more. If you pay more, you do more. I'm not going to sit home, my managers who are paid at the highest end, and tell my everyday hourly employees, you have to come in. And that is what, when you hear the term of telecommuting is something that is given to the high end of the employee and civil service pool. Over 350,000 New York City employees, 10% of them can telecommute, non-essential. That's the high end of the spectrum. That is not my bus operators who are predominantly black. That's not my 911 operators who are predominantly black and women. That's not my nursing staff. So I say no to saying the high end can go home and the everyday people who are making the city run, we treat them differently. That's unacceptable to me. And I told my managers that you will stay with the team and we will all get through this together.
All right. Brooklyn Bureau President Eric Adams, we appreciate you joining us on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All right, so first of all, that graphic is way too small. So tomorrow we're going to run it right down here all across the screen. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, that goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.